Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good evening. I hope you can all hear us and see us. Hey, so I would start. So, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lina. I'm Cafetalk's staff for support, and I'll be hosting today's English Symposium. And the topic for today, as you all know, would be about what you didn't know about the USA. And first of all, today I have with me three tutors. First, Amy, Josh, and Maria. You can all see them here. And as you already know, today's symposium will focus on various facts about the US and about aspects that you might not known before. And let's see, we would first start with Amy's presentation. That would be about Disney and as a company, but also about the theme parks in the US. And then we will continue with Josh. He will introduce you to facts about what makes the southern United States special compared to the other areas. And finally, we will conclude with Maria and her interesting presentation about plastic pollution and environmental art in the US. And of course, if you have any questions or comments for the tutors about their presentations, please feel free to write on the chat. You would see the chat on the right side of the screen here. And we can talk about your questions after each presentation. All right, I will continue with an introduction in Japanese. これからちょっと日本語でご紹介いたします。改めて皆さんこんばんは、こんにちは、おはようございます。本日のホストをさせていただきますカフェトークのリナと申します。本日は3人の講師に参加させていただきました。まず、エイミ先生とジョシュ先生と、あとマリア先生ですね。で、皆さんがすでにご存知のようですが、その本日のシンポジアムは、アメリカに関する様々な事実だったりとか、皆さんが今まで知らなかったような、側面とかに、終点を当てます。で、まずは、ディズニーの、古きからの歴史とテーマパークについて、エミ先生に発表していただきます。その続き、ジョス先生が米国の南部の特徴についてを発表していただきます。そして最後に3番目に、米国のプラスチック環境の汚染と、環境アートという、トピックについてマリア先生の発表になります。で、最後にそれぞれの、講師へのご質問とかコメントとかあれば、英語でも日本語でも気楽にそのチャットボックスの方にぜひこちらで送信していただければ、各プレゼンテーションごとにチェックして、講師との、クエスチョンアンサーでちょっとやっておきます。で、あともう一つですが、その画面で、今画面共有をさせていただきますが、もし PDF とか、その直接見たい、他の画面で見たい方でしたら、セミナーの資料、チャットの右側にあるセミナー資料から、資料の方をダウンロードできるので、もしよかったらそちらもチェックしてみてください。Okay. Then we're ready to start. So first of all, we'll start with Amy. And so if you're already with the presentation, we can start anytime.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Is everyone able to see my screen, Lena? Okay, thank you so much. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this evening. My name is Amy Miyabi, and I will be presenting about Disney. As you may assume, I'm a huge Disney fan, so I'm so happy to have the opportunity to present about this topic to all of you. 皆さんこんばんは。みやびと申します。今日はディズニーについて発表しますので、どうかみんなにとって楽しいプレゼンになればすごく嬉しいです。よろしくお願いします。So, before we hop into the presentation, I want to just briefly introduce myself. So, I'm from Japan. I was born in Japan, and then I moved to the United States with my parents when I was a child. And I enrolled in a 4-year university in the state of Pennsylvania, so in America. And then I enrolled in a graduate program in Washington, D.C., also in America. Last year, I decided to move back to Japan, so now I actually live in Kyoto, and I'm here at Ritsumeikan University as a graduate student. My research is involved in cultural psychology, gender studies, race and ethnicity, and my current research is actually about Japanese women's experiences living in America. So, as you can imagine, it's a very important topic to me because that's literally what I went through. So since university, I have been working in international education related jobs, specifically with international student support. I have been teaching English for over 7, 8 years now. And besides Cafetalk, I actually work as an English instructor at a school here in Japan. And in addition to teaching English, I also worked in international offices in Japan and in the United States. So I'm very familiar with visa processing, international student support, onboarding, study abroad, all of that stuff. And it's really my passion to work with international students, whether it's teaching English or supporting them in their international experiences. So this concludes my introduction, and so now we're going to talk about Disney. So to begin, it's very important to obviously talk about the founders of Disney. They are Roy and Walt Disney, also known as the Disney Brothers. Many people probably have heard about Walt Disney, but Roy Disney was also a very important part as he was also half of the start of the company. And it's said that Roy Disney was actually very shy and reserved, and so this explains why many people don't really know about him. Whereas Walt Disney was the one who was very personable, very outgoing, sociable, and Walt Disney was the one who really came up with the ideas related to Disney companies. So he's the one who came up with Mickey Mouse, Disney World, all of that. Whereas Roy Disney was the one who did all the business and finances of the company. And then so when Walt passed away, so Walt passed away before Roy Disney, and then what Roy decided to do was he renamed Disney World in Florida, in the United States. He renamed it Walt Disney World as a way to memorialize his brother and for people to not forget that it was all Walt's dreams to make Walt Disney World happen. So, a fun fact about Disney is that Mickey Mouse was actually not the first character behind the company. It was actually Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald was created in 1927 by Walt Disney, and he became a significant milestone in animation because Oswald was the first cartoon character to possess a distinct personality and to have a backstory. So even though Oswald could not speak, he was very animated, very emotional in his gestures, and this was a very big deal in animation history. Also, Oswald represents Disney's first major success in financial viability, which also means that it was the first indication that Disney as a company could perhaps succeed. And then, so what happened though was that Disney as a company lost the rights to Oswald, so they needed to create a new character to become the face of the company. And this is when Walt Disney decided to create Mickey Mouse. And also, another fun fact is that Mickey Mouse was originally supposed to be named Mortimer Mouse, but Walt Disney's wife said that Mickey Mouse was a better name, so that's why we have Mickey Mouse now. The brief start of the company after the creation of Mickey Mouse is as follows. So it started with the release of Steamboat Willie in 1928. And then this was the first animation with synchronized sound, meaning it was the first one where you see the visual and the sound at the same time. Then, less than 10 years later, Disney released its first feature film, which was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and this was the highest grossing, most successful film of all time up to this point. And then in 1955, Disneyland in Anaheim, California opens. And then in 1971 is when Walt Disney World in Florida opens. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about Walt Disney World because, in my opinion, Walt Disney World is kind of like its own entity, whereas, like, Disneyland in California, we have that in Chiba Prefecture in Japan. We have a Disneyland and a Disney Sea. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about Walt Disney World specifically. So, for those who are not familiar, Walt Disney World consists of 4 theme parks. So, again, this is very similar to how Tokyo Disney Resort has Disney Sea and Disneyland. So, this one has four parks, and they are Animal Kingdom, Epcot, Magic Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios. The oldest one is Magic Kingdom, and Magic Kingdom was the first park to open and was the only park Walt Disney World had for the first 11 years. And then over time, they added in the 3 additional parks. And Animal Kingdom is the largest theme park in the entire world. For the context of how big Walt Disney World is, here's a diagram of the amount of land that was bought to create Walt Disney World. So it's all of the darker green. And the black dot in the center is actually the amount of land that Disneyland in Anaheim, California is. So that's like the size of one theme park. So as you can see, it was a huge deal for Disney as a company to decide to create Walt Disney World. They were very ambitious with the amount of land that they purchased. Something that I find super fascinating about Walt Disney World is the underground tunnel system, also known as the utilidors. So the story behind this is that Walt Disney wanted there to be a way that characters, like, in the costumes and crew members, staff, could go to their specific work locations without having to walk through the entire park. So let's say Mickey Mouse is supposed to go for a show at one part of the park. He wanted there to be a way that Mickey Mouse can get ready in one aspect of the park and get to the other, like the location, without having to walk through the entire park along the way. So what they decided to do is that they created an underground tunnel system. The largest tunnel system is in Magic Kingdom, and when they were creating the resorts, this is when they decided to create the utilidors. So what they did actually was that the utilidors is at ground level, so it's actually on the normal level of the park is the underground railroad system. Underground tunnel system. And then what they did was that they created the Seven Seas Lagoon. So they created a body of water in the Walt Disney World, and they took all the land that was originally in the Seven Seas Lagoon, and they put that on top of the ground level. So they put that on top of the tunnel system, and then that level, which is technically the second floor, but we wouldn't know, that second floor is what we think is the first floor of Walt Disney World. So when you go into Magic Kingdom, you're actually going on an incline. So once you pass the ticket area, you're slowly going upwards towards the castle, and that's because it's the tunnel system is at the ground level, but you're going to the second level to go to the actual theme park. And I think it's so fascinating how they created this idea. So some fun facts about Disney World and their amusement parks are the following. So one is that there is a trash can every 30 feet in the resort, and this is to prevent people from throwing trash on the floor and to become for the convenience of the guests. Also, there's no gum sold at any of the amusement parks as to avoid any risk of people stepping in it. Also, the tallest attractions of the resort in America, right, are 199 feet tall, and that's because if any building that's 200 feet tall and taller, they have to have these flashing red lights. That's just kind of the rule it is, for very, very tall buildings. And Disney wanted to avoid having to put those red lights, so they put the tallest buildings at 199 feet, so it's the tallest that could be possible without the red lights. And then the last fun fact I have here is that Disney has smellitizers, which are special machines throughout the park to bring out special scents. So that's why certain amusement parks, certain parts of Disney have it might smell like popcorn, it might smell like soap, there's different scents, and that's very intentional for them to do. Another fun fact is that the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom, this is the symbol of Animal Kingdom, just like how Magic Kingdom has the Cinderella Castle as the main image. The Tree of Life is tree, right, that has over 300 animals carved into it, as you can see with the second picture. And this is as a visual representation of the diversity, beauty, and interconnected nature of Earth's creatures. And it's a fascinating piece of art, in my opinion. And then, just like at any Disney park, there are hidden Mickeys that you can find throughout the amusement park. And in Walt Disney World, there's over 1,000 hidden Mickeys documented. So they're literally everywhere. And then to basically, this concludes my presentation. And I just wanted to, as you could tell, I'm a huge fan of Disney. I went to the one in California before, so Disneyland in California. I've been to Walt Disney World in Florida before. I go to Tokyo Disney all the time. I'm going to go to Tokyo Disney actually like in a couple of weeks here with my family. So as you can see, I'm a huge fan of Disney. And so I take lots of pride in Disney planning and trips as well. And so I just wanted to reintroduce myself again, right? My name is Amy Miyabi. I go by Miyabi for Japanese people. And I teach English and have experience with international student support and in education. So if you have any questions or if you want to chat about Disney or anything of the nature, please don't hesitate to contact me. So thank you for your long attention. And I'm going to pass it back to Lena. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. It was such a nice presentation. Thank you. Yeah, there are so many facts I didn't even know about a Disney World. I had no idea. Even like first of all with the buildings and their heights and everything, it's actually good. Like I understand like those red lights would kind of change the atmosphere at per all the
Right.
park and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah, let's see. You actually had a question at first, but you already answered. It was, have you been to Tokyo Disney Resort? So
Yes. I
I guess
I
that's a given.
I've been to Tokyo Disney Resort the most out of all the Disney parks, and
Oh, okay.
I have to say, I think Tokyo Disney Resort is probably like the second best I've ever been to. Like, I
Oh,
think
it's
I
second.
think Walt Disney World is just first place just because there's 4 parks, but Tokyo Disney Resort is
Mm-hmm.
definitely up there as one of the best in the world, I feel.
I see. I've never been to America. I cannot even like imagine. I'm not sure how that would be, but I understand. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions or comment. Oh, okay. Here's one. The next one would be: do they have it? Kibira-san. Do they have any special vehicles for the characters to move quickly in the tunnel?
That's such a good question. Yes, they do. They
Yeah.
have like it's like a not a go-kart. What do you call it? A golf cart? Like
Golf
I guess
cart?
that's what yeah, what you I don't know. I think that's what you call it, right? A golf cart.
Mhm.
And they have it so the characters will be like driven in the tunnels to go to the different. It's like I knew
I
about
see.
the utilitors, but I had no idea that was at ground level. So when I learned that,
Mhm.
it like was so fascinating to me how they like literally created the tunnel and then they created the entire amusement park
Yeah.
like above that. So it was just an interesting fact I wanted to share.
Oh, what I also want to ask about this question is, so would the character, the ones that do the character, would they also basically just drive? Would they have someone like a cast member to drive?
So
You're not sure about
that's
it.
very good. I
Super
mean,
cool.
I wouldn't know for sure, but the
Yeah.
pictures that I saw about the
I see.
utilitors, they had staff driving the characters.
Of
I
course.
think it's a safety
That would
hazard
be.
to be driving in the costumes.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, if I guess they have the entrances for the tunnel very well hidden. Like, have you ever spotted something like that? The entrance or the cars or everything?
No, I've never
Mm-hmm.
seen
Mm-hmm.
anything like it, but it was
Okay.
so
Yeah.
fascinating when I was looking at the map for the utilitors. It's literally like the amusement
Mhm.
park, just underground. So, and
A
there's the
second amusement park. Yeah.
yeah, and there's the directions, like if you come out here is like Cinderella Castle area, out here is this part of the park. So I
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing.
It's interesting. Really interesting. And I think I'm not sure about what the utilitors would be, but Akiko here is asking if in these utilitors, how do crew move around? How does the crew move around?
It seems like the crew just, I mean, like if they use like the golf carts, I have no idea about that, but I'm
You know.
assuming like it's the from what I read, Walt Disney, I think it was when, because Disneyland in California was the first one to be built,
Yes.
and I think the story was that when he was like kind of like visiting the park or something when it opened, he saw like a staff member like wearing like whatever costume I think it was like for Frontierland or something. So he was wearing more of like
Mhm.
cowboy similar outfit, and he was walking through like a completely different area of the park just because he needed to go to the location. And Walt Disney saw
Yeah.
that, was like, no, it like ruins the vibe, like that he
Mhm.
has to walk through here. So they just made it that they just do it underground secretly.
Would be better. Mhm.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you very much for the answer. Um, let's see the next one. This is from Nobuhide. I've never been to the ones in the U.S., but been to the park in Hong Kong. Oh yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, have you ever been to Hong Kong?
No, I've never been to the one in Hong Kong. No, no, no.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe Nobuhide would like to go to the U.S. sometime. Let's see. Oh, someone here, Ryoka, says that I wish the Adventures campus could come to the Tokyo Disneyland, the Tokyo Disney Resort as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
quite popular. Hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting that yes, and I didn't know about exactly Roswell. Like I never saw the animation, but I always thought that it's a simpler first version of Mickey
Yeah,
Mouse.
I think
Interesting.
that's what lots of people think. Like they
Mhm.
think that's like the what Mickey's original design. I think
Yes, yes,
I think my mother used to always say that too. Like Mickey like looked funky in the beginning, but like that's not Mickey. It's a completely
yeah.
different character.
Mhm. All right, thank you very much, Amy. We're gonna stop here
Yeah.
for this. So we have to like move to the next one, but thank you very much. And for all of you, if you want to look over the files, we have it here, set it on the seminar folder. So if you want to check the pictures or what Amy shared with us today, please have a look. Okay, we will move to Josh's presentation. So if you're ready to share the screen, and we can move on to the presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, and welcome everyone for being at the Cafetalk English Symposium. I'll introduce myself just a little bit. My name is Josh, and I've been on Cafe Talk for I think about 3 years now. I think, and I'm originally from America. I'm from South Carolina, which is in the southeastern part of America. And let's see, right now I live in Thailand. I live in Bangkok. But before Thailand, I lived in Shizuoka and Nagasaki. And before that, I lived in South Korea for 2 years. So altogether, I've been living in Asia for about 10 years now in different countries. So yeah, that's a little about me. And oh, for my hobbies, I like reading books and watching movies and, of course, traveling for sure. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen here just a moment. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Lena, can you see the screen? Oh, let's okay. Let's
It
try again.
worked. That's all right. Yeah,
Okay,
it was
all
fine.
right.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. I just wanted to make sure it was working. Okay, so that should be fine. All right. So, one of the things that I really like about Japan is that every prefecture or region has its own unique food and culture and sites and so on. This includes Hakata Ramen in Fukuoka and the Tamakonyaku in Yamagata, as well as the Daidoge Festival in Shizuoka, where I lived before, and even most people know the clock tower in Sapporo. So, yeah, lots of great and unique things all over Japan. And I wanted to take this opportunity to tell everyone about some of the unique things in America. You know, there are a lot of things in America that are hardly ever shown in Hollywood movies. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about what makes the southern the southern United States special. You can see the red states here are part of the southern United States. And let's start with a little kind of general information. So the population of the southern U.S. is about just under 120 million people. And for reference, right now, Japan has about 123 million people. So basically, the southern part of America has roughly the same population as Japan. One thing I didn't add here is the size. So the southern U.S. has a total area of about 2.38 million square kilometers, whereas Japan is about 378,000 square kilometers. So the southern U.S. On its own, area-wise, is quite a lot bigger than the area of Japan. There are 16 states in total as part of the southern United States. The highest populations, I listed the top 4 here. You can see Texas is the highest with about 27 million. Florida with about 20 million. Georgia with about 10 million. And North Carolina with just under 10 million as well. Okay. And now let's talk about demographics. So, what is demographics? Demographics is data related to population and particular groups within that population. So, we'll take a look at 2 of these groups. One of them would be race and ethnicity. Obviously, this would be very different from the demographics of Japan. You can see that the white population of the South is about 58%. The Hispanic population is around 16 or 17%. And the black population is just under 20%. You'll see that the Asian population is quite low, about 3%. This would be different in other parts of America like California or Washington State, where the Asian populations are higher. And the other, excuse me, the other part of demographics I wanted to look at, again, very different from Japan, the religious demographics. We can see that about 76% of people in the South identify as being some form of Christian. This includes Catholics at 15%. There are non-Christian faiths and some other religions in there as well. And then we have unaffiliated at about 19%. So you'll see that about 14% of people don't identify as anything in particular. They don't have a particular religion. All right. Okay. So moving on. Everyone is always curious about the local foods everywhere you go. So let's talk about that for a minute. I think everyone all over the world knows fried chicken. And in fact, KFC, or Kentucky, as many Japanese people know it as, um, that came from the state of Kentucky, which is part of the southern United States. But the South also includes many great local dishes like collard greens. Uh, we have cornbread. There's mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese. Then I think another big difference, something that is very special about the South, is that breakfast in the South tends to be a lot more savory than Asian countries or other parts of the US. For example, for breakfast, a lot of people might eat gravy and biscuits or bacon, eggs, and grits. Grits are a common breakfast food made from cornmeal, and it's basically only in the South. That's really the only place that you'll see grits. Whereas things like bacon and eggs, you'll have those in other areas. The South also has some special desserts like pecan pie, made with pecans, or some people pronounce it pecans, but both pronunciations are okay. And speaking of food, you have probably heard about barbecue or have even tried it yourself. This is actually what's known as ketchup based barbecue, or some people call it just red barbecue. However, the South is also home to what's known as mustard based barbecue. This has more of a yellowish orange kind of color, and the taste is a lot tangier than red barbecue would be. Some people have a strong preference for one or the other, but I think both are great. Yellow barbecue is a bit usually more common in places like North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. But again, it's kind of seen all through the South. Now, let's talk about some hobbies and activities that are popular in the South. I want to highlight a few that are maybe very different from other cultures or other areas of the US, starting with hunting. So, one hobby that is very unique is hunting, which is incredibly popular in the South. It does exist in other parts of America, but it's particularly popular and special in the South. Hunters are interested in many different types of animals and often use the meat to feed their families. Speaking of family, hunting is kind of a family tradition. Many fathers teach their sons or sometimes their daughters how to hunt. Note that in the US, each state has different gun laws, so it's important to check the local rules and regulations. So, for example, um, the hunting laws in Florida might be very different from the hunting laws in Alabama or North Carolina. Okay. Fishing is another hobby that people use to relax and also feed their families. The two longest rivers in the US, the Missouri River and the Mississippi River, are both located in the South. So there are quite a few lakes and rivers all over. And there are also many types of fish in the South, including smallmouth bass, blue catfish, and Atlantic sturgeon. This is another hobby that is kind of a family tradition. People grow up learning how to fish from their parents and then pass it on to their children many years later. All right, the next one, this is very, very unique. I recommend maybe checking some YouTube videos of this later. This is called noodling. Basically, people will go into a lake or a river, and there are catfish holes, holes under the water where catfish live, and they stick their arm into the hole and they wait for the catfish to bite, and then they pull the catfish out. That is noodling. You're probably wondering about the biting part. Thankfully, catfish, I think they have teeth, but the teeth are not super sharp. But nonetheless, it can be a little bit dangerous, especially since there are some other animals, some dangerous ones like snakes that can be in these lakes and rivers. But nonetheless, it's a very unique activity for the South. And one popular hobby in the South is called horseshoes, playing horseshoes. You probably know horseshoes from the bottom of horses' hooves, but this is a game where players take turns throwing the horseshoes at a stake, kind of a pipe sticking out of the ground. Um, the players will get points for hitting the stake or coming close to the stake. And one kind of special rule is that a horseshoe that completely surrounds the stake is called a ringer. So sometimes you'll get points not just for hitting the stake, but for coming close to the stake or completely surrounding it. All right. Okay. Next, this part is very interesting to me. I want to take a minute to talk about regional accents, since they are very unique and a special part of the South. So this is similar to how maybe people in Tokyo speak differently from people in Osaka or Okinawa. There are a lot of different accents in America, and I'll show you some of these today. Now, these audio clips come from a dialect coach named Eric Singer. His videos are on YouTube, and I have a link to those at the end of my presentation. First, let's start with what's called a general American accent, and I'll play that now. In each audio clip, you will hear him using the accent and also using some words and phrases, kind of explaining a little bit about each accent. All right, so let's listen to General American.
What's General American? The first thing is, it's not one accent. It's basically a terrible term for a wide variety of accents that essentially don't have a lot of obvious regionally distinctive features in them.
Okay, so there he was using General American. Let's compare that to the Texas accent.
Hey Josh, sorry to interrupt you. Can you turn the volume a bit up? We didn't really hear it
Oh,
quite
really?
well.
Okay.
It's really, really small. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I turned it up as much as possible. We'll say.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try that. Let's see how it goes. Okay, let's try with Texas.
Now, one thing that sets a lot of Texans apart from other Southerners is that there's a lot less goose running. So the tongue stays further back through that whole vowel sound instead of coming forwards.
Okay, Lena, how was that one?
I'm so sorry. We could not hear it quite well. It's not loud enough.
Okay. Well, not a
On the speaker. Mm-hmm.
not a big problem. Well, as I said, these clips come from a series of YouTube videos by Eric Singer. I have the link at the end of my presentation. So I'll just kind of take you through the names of some of the accents. We have the Texas accent, the Southern Louisiana accent. Louisiana also has a Cajun accent that sounds a bit different, but is a very unique sound, and some of the vocabulary is different. There is the Appalachian accent, which kind of travels through multiple states. And there are also accents specific to North Carolina and Virginia. So, again, I recommend checking out the YouTube videos because he actually goes through all of America. I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 different accents for the whole country. And yeah, it's very interesting to hear all the differences there, some unique language, and very unique accents all through the country. Okay, well, moving on. So, just like there are many great sites in Japan, there are many great sites in the southern United States. So, we'll look at some of those today. Now, this includes the Shenandoah National Park in Virginia, very huge area. I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of square kilometers, but very, very beautiful area. There is the Everglades in Florida, a little bit of a kind of more wet, swampy environment. Then you have the Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. And there's also Whitewater Falls in North Carolina. The list is definitely not limited to these. There are many, many special natural sites all over the southern U.S. These are just a few different ones I wanted to share today. And there are also many unique cities around the South. One of them is Charleston in South Carolina. That's just a couple hours from my hometown. Charleston is a very historical city, and it's actually technically where the American Civil War began. The first shots, the first fighting of the Civil War began in Charleston. And there's also Miami in Florida. This is an exciting city that has great weather and is full of many different cultures. The southern part of Florida has many people coming from different countries in the area. So, yeah, it is quite mixed in Florida. You can meet many different types of people there. There is Nashville, Tennessee, another popular city for younger people and is known for the kind of country music scene. Speaking of music, there is New Orleans in Louisiana. New Orleans is also known for its music, but the music here is more of the jazz variety. A lot of jazz musicians will tour all through Louisiana and particularly New Orleans. Okay. Again, not limited to these cities, but I just wanted to show you a few that were very special to me. Okay, and so a little wrap up. The South is a very unique place with a very deep and rich history going back to the early days of America. Some of the things in the South have influenced other parts of the United States. And yeah, there are just many unique things that cannot be found anywhere else. And there's basically too many to list in one presentation. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview on that. All right. And yeah, thank you very much for listening tonight or today, depending on where you're at. As I said, the end of my presentation, I have the links to some of the things I spoke about, including the US accents. There are 2 YouTube videos for that. And then just a quick note for me. As I said, I've been on Cafetalk for I think about 3 years, and I have many different types of lessons, mostly 25 minutes or 50 minutes. And I'm also running some special coupons beginning in August. So be sure to check it out, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. It was a really nice presentation. Thank you so much. We
Thank
have
you.
so many comments and questions. I would want to quickly go over them. So
Okay.
if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Let's see. First, I think it's related to the first part of the presentation about the special foods you have there. There's one question from Black Lemonade. What is colored green? Is it salad? I think it was the second food you showed on the presentation. They're asking if
Yeah.
it's a salad or what is it.
Oh, collard greens. You can think of it kind of like green beans, and it's often prepared with little pieces of ham or bacon, so it's more of a savory kind of side dish,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. Salty and
Yeah.
savory. Yeah,
Oh, I see. Thank you very much. Thank you very
you're
much.
welcome.
Okay. And then moving to the noodling, which sounds very crazy. Here's a comment.
Yes.
Someone's asking if you could explain a bit more about noodling. And for example, do you eat catfish afterwards, or is it just the activity?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Yes, most people will eat the catfish. Um, I know that when it comes to fishing, some people only catch the fish and then let the fish go. That does happen sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
typically with catfish and with noodling, they're actually going to prepare the fish and eat it later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
So you actually do eat it
mm,
after. Mm-hmm.
yeah. But
Thank
it
you.
is a little bit of a dangerous activity because there are, like I said, a lot of
Yeah.
other animals in the water, including
Mm-hmm.
alligators and some types of snakes. So um, it's
It's a
not,
bit dangerous.
yeah, it's not something that everyone does all the
Mm-hmm.
time, but very unique to the South.
You might need to have a bit of a training for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Understand. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Okay. Let's see. There's another comment about the whole, like the sartan, as in so much nature. It looks beautiful. Thank you for the comments. And then there's one comment, maybe not exactly related to what you presented before, but a student here says one of my images of the South in the United States is a hurricane because I sometimes watch or read that kind of news. So does each family have an underground shelter or something like that?
Oh,
If you
that's
know about it.
yeah, that's a good question. It is true that hurricanes will definitely come to parts of the South.
Mm-hmm.
Florida is definitely hit the most, but then some of the surrounding states like Louisiana and Alabama and Georgia,
Mm.
they they will have hurricanes occasionally. Where I'm from in South Carolina, there's only been, like, in my lifetime, maybe 4 or 5 really big hurricanes that came
That was.
that far to the north.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer the question about the sort of like basement or underground shelters, um, most people do not have those.
I
Um,
see.
I think those are more common in the Midwest, like for the tornado areas.
Mhm.
But with hurricanes, for whatever reason, most people don't have that.
Yeah.
However, in Florida, there are special, they call them shutters, like these very heavy kind of metal panels that you put over your windows and your doors, so
You
that
have the panels,
when
yeah.
the very heavy rain and the wind
Mhm.
come to the city, you won't lose all of your windows and doors and so on.
Mhm. I see. It's quite dangerous, but it's good if you have some of those so you can protect your house yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for explaining that.
you're welcome.
Okay. Lastly, let's see. There's another comment about someone said that I remember eating a lot of deep fish, fried catfish at a campus cafeteria. So I believe this is in the U.S. Maybe they went there to study.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a lot
Mm.
of fried foods in the South, and
Mhm.
another one food I didn't mention is
Yes.
you can actually eat only the tail of an alligator,
Mm. Oh
uh,
wow.
but you
Yes.
can eat that meat, and basically it tastes like chicken, basically. So
It's a good example. So it's not
yeah,
that much. Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah. Let's see. We would conclude this session for here. There was other comments about the accents that I would really also like to speak about that, but we don't have much time left. And if Josh is also okay with that, you can also share those audios and talk about accents in your lessons, or if you ever do some online sessions, students they're still interested about that. So if you would like to have that. All of you, if you want to have some lessons with Josh, I think he would be glad to explain more about it. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, so let's quickly move to Maria. Sorry to make you wait so long. We will move to the next presentation. And if you're ready, we can start anytime. Okay. You might have your mic on mute right now, so if you can try to connect it again.
Can you? All right, what about
yes.
now? It's unmuted.
Yes, I can hear you right now. Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So let's see if I can. Do you see it in presentation mode? Can you see the screen? Hello? Okay.
Sorry,
right.
we can see the
So-
side notes on the right side yet, so it's not full screen.
Okay, one moment then. All right, and what about now?
This looks perfect. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So today we are going to talk about plastic pollution and environmental art, things that you didn't know about the United States of America. My name is Maria Nissan, and just to give you a little introduction about myself, I am born in California, but I've been traveling for the past 8 years across to different countries. I am a certified English teacher, and I've been an environmental artist for the past 10 years. I co founded an environmental organization with my partner where we go around the United States and different countries and we talk about waste consumption and plastic pollution. We teach participants how to turn plastic trash into art. So today we are going to talk about the United States and what happens there with our plastic waste. So the first thing is, what is environmental art? Well, it sounds just like that. It is basically art about the environment. So we combine those two components where we are taking environmental awareness and nature, and we are using art as the medium to have a discussion and a dialogue. So there are two kinds of environmental artists. There are ones that are using trash and turning it into art. And then there are other artists who use nature and turn that into art and then let the art become part of nature. I am the first, where I take plastic waste that has been thrown around, single use plastics, thrown in the trash, thrown in nature, and I turn it into large scale installations or paintings and drawings. And I use this as a way to have the conversation in the United States about what our consumption habits are. So, Americans consume more goods than any other country in the world. We have the most amount of waste in the world. And not only that, but we ship our waste off to other countries as well. So we don't even properly dispose of it. And we ship it to other countries that do not have the same kind of waste management that we have, poorer countries that get bombarded with all of our trash. So what I do is we've been traveling around to different countries trying to do these projects with kids and youth. And one thing I'm noticing when I'm in these other countries, the trash and the plastic pollution come from major corporations in the United States. So these are major United States brands that are creating their trash and their pollution, and it's going all across the world. So I am sure that you know all of these different places on the left-hand side, and they are all polluting our entire planet. And in the United States, Coca-Cola has been ranked number one as the plastic polluter every year for the past 5 years. 90% of plastic is never recycled in the United States. So I know every time we go somewhere, there's recycling bins and everyone's talking about recycling in America, but it's a failed concept. What we've recently discovered is that in the United States, if you take 100 pieces of single use plastics to recycling facilities or recycling bins, only 10 of those pieces will wind up being reused into something else. The other will go into landfills and it will go into nature and it will go into waste because there's just too much contamination. We don't have it set up, designed to work, and it's a failed concept. Microplastics contaminate soils, water, and food. So microplastics is when we have single-use plastic and it is exposed to sun, and after a while, it turns into smaller pieces. Something to keep in mind, that plastic does not actually biodegrade, and it does not turn into organic material. What happens is it turns into these small, tiny little pieces that we call microplastics that contaminate everything it touches. And we can't even see it after a while, but it never actually disappears. It just becomes part of the ecosystem. 70 million bottles are used every day in the United States. 70 million. So there are simple solutions we can use to try and fight these numbers and these statistics as individuals that I will talk about coming up. But first, I want to dive into microplastics. So this is us in Georgia, where I was outside collecting on an eco hiking trip. Go to pick up the plastic. It just is shredded into smaller plastics. So it's impossible to actually filter out once it gets into this. So the best preventative measure is to not put our trash out in nature because it will eventually turn to microplastics. And the problem with microplastics is animals eat it. So if you are not a vegetarian, you are most likely getting microplastics in your body from the meat that you're eating because the animals are eating grass and plants, and microplastics are embedded in that. There are also microplastics in our cosmetics as women. We have lots of microplastics in our clothes every time we wash them. So it's really important that we try to find a way to raise awareness about this issue. So I've been everywhere in the United States. I used to be a flight attendant, so I was traveling from one place to another. And this is an example of Georgia, and I could find the same trash in California. So from one coast to the other, it is just everywhere in the United States. If you look hard enough, you will find it, unfortunately. So we have a thing right now that is floating on the ocean surface, and it is big as the state of Texas. And it is an accumulation of trash that is floating on our surface, plastic pollution. And because of the currents between the two places, we are getting a stream of garbage just floating. And that doesn't even include the garbage that has fallen down into the ocean. And it is called this garbage patch. It's the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's been a lot of local initiatives trying to find ways to solve this issue, but it is harming our environment. And a lot of that is coming from the United States. As you can see on the coast, half of it is just coming from our coast. And it just goes into the ocean, and then it pollutes all the ocean animals and everything around it. So now that I gave you all this information that makes us kind of sad and not really feeling good, let's uplift those spirits. I have come up with a solution to where we can take plastic trash and turn it into art. And that is what some of my lessons are about, is how we can use environmental art as a way to start bringing action and change to this issue. Because all we need is like-minded individuals trying to make a solution for this problem. And anything that's ever changed has always started with an individual. So kind of like a domino effect. So as environmental artists and as other environmental artists in the United States, the movement has been quite big lately, especially with climate change and global warming. Artists are trying to find ways to build awareness using something that they've hounded in with their skill. And building awareness starts with having this dialogue. So creating something really beautiful from something really trashy, literal trash. So this is some awareness projects that we have going on, some paintings from plastic bags, going to different schools in the United States, talking to kids about why it's harmful, and using art as a way to remind us what happens to the plastic after it's done. So a lot of artists will make art pieces about marine animals, because a lot of this is going back into the oceans, and dolphins and whales are suffering. I know everyone's seen the turtles with the straws. So using art as a way to correlate those two can bridge the gap and help raise awareness about this issue, which inevitably will be the force that can drive change. So we can have some eco hikes going on where we go outside and we clean up nature. We can share some things on social media. If you see something, write a comment. Environmental artists are all over social media and all over online at the drop of a fingertip. In the United States, there are so many Facebook pages that are helping us build conscious decisions, letting us know alternatives to plastic packaging. If you go to a grocery store and you can't find certain fruits or vegetables that you want that aren't covered in plastic packaging, you can use your online resources as a way to get things delivered to your house without all that mess from local farmers, local markets. There are many alternatives that are happening right now in the United States, and it's all just within our fingertips and within our grasp. So we use art as a way to kind of bridge that scenario and let people know that this is a thing that's happening. And if you don't want to be part of the pollution, then you can be part of the solution. So one way we can do that is by spreading knowledge. We have an Instagram page for Microplastics Joe where we talk about plastic pollution in the United States, what's going on, what we can do, and hopefully use that as a source to drive environmental law changes. There are forums all over the internet about things that we can sign and petition against. We can write our local senators and our governmental people in each state to stop the ban of sorry, it's getting late, to be able to sign these petitions in order to start a ban on single-use plastics. So these are some things that we can do in the United States and things that are actually happening and taking place right now as we speak. There have been so many initiatives popping up in America because this is a big issue that's been happening, and there is a sense of accountability. So, to learn more about this topic while learning English, you can join me on my Cafetalk lessons where I talk all things environment. So, plastic pollution, trash, alternatives, environmental art, anything you want, all nature related. I am your person. And I will wrap this up because I know that we are over our time. And I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to express to you this issue that's happening in America, but also the solutions that are taking place. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. That's really interesting. It's a really, I would say, special subject, and I think this has been going on for a long time ago. And it's nice to know that people like you are trying to do something. I'm sure cannot change overnight, but it's really nice to know that you are actually doing something in this issue. It's really nice presentation.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we can't change the whole system overnight, but we can get going.
Yeah, someone has to start it. Someone has to do something, as you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's see. Yes, there's one comment, I would also add that about Japan as well. There's so much plastic here in Japan as well, and you might already know. I know people we're trying to do something about it as well. We separate the garbage, we throw away the plastic bottles, of course, separate from food residues or anything, but it's still a lot of plastics.
Yes, I agree. And I've taught a lot of Japanese students about the environmental issues and actually sent them links to alternatives that they have in Japan, like shampoo bars, conditioner bars, plastic-free packaging. So there is a lot of plastic waste, but there's also those small local initiatives that are taking place everywhere in the world.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, those are really good solution. I think, yeah, your students found a good person to ask that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see. Another comment here. It was a It was a really thought-provoking presentation, and thank you so much for sharing it. One comment.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice, encouraging.
Another one. Okay, the next one. This is a big problem all over the world now, and actually, we use a lot of plastic things in Japan as well. Yes, again.
Yes.
Okay, here's
So it
another
is a big
interesting comment.
problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, but with big problems, we can be the voice. So yes, it's horrible that there's plastic packaging everywhere we go, and it seems unavoidable. But once you start reaching, you can find solutions on your own as an individual. And even though that is not changing the entire world and the entire system, you are putting less trash into our environment. So just reaching out through social media, finding those types of outlets and resources is the first step to being the change.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Thank you very much for saying that. Let's see. Okay, there's a few other comments. Let me read through those. There's another comment, a suggestion from a student. It would be nice if you will give art lessons using plastic bottles, for example.
Oh, that's coming next. So
Okay.
I am actually in the process
getting
of
that ready.
writing a curriculum of how to do those projects on Cafetalk.
Oh,
So stay
great.
tuned, follow
So
my
stay
page,
tuned.
and it
Yeah.
will be back. Thank
Great,
you.
that's great.
Nice.
Let's see. Yeah, another comment. I think it's a great opportunity to know about pollution and environment by environmental art from you. Thank you. That was a comment from Sachi. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's another. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. There's a lot of people saying yes.
Oh, that just warms my heart. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. It was really nice.
And thank you for the opportunity.
If you have any other comments or want to add some questions, please feel free to contact the tutors here, of course, separately, or just directly ask for a lesson. I'm sure they would be happy to talk with you about the presentation and as well about their lessons. So for the end, we did have a bit longer time. So if all of you want to say something at the end for your students, and then we can end the streaming. You can go in the same order if you have something to say. Anything, fine?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say thank you, right? And then also to Josh and Maria as well, for your lovely presentations. And thank you, Lena, for, emceeing the whole event. Yes, thank you, everyone, for your participation. I guess I'll pass it on to Josh if he wants to say any concluding remarks.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep. Thank you, Amy. And yeah, thank you, Amy and Maria. Other great presentations, very interesting content. And thank you to the Cafetalk staff like Lena, who are organizing these great symposiums. And most of all, thank you all in the audience for being here tonight and listening to our presentations. And as Lena was saying, if you have any questions later, please message us and let's see how things go. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Well, as we say in the United States, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but thank you, Amy and Josh, for your presentations. Thank you, Cafetalk, for organizing the event. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about it. And thank you, audience, for your active engagement during this event.
Thank you, all of you, and thank you to all the students who checked us today. And as I said, you can check the files on the same streaming page. You have them on the right side. And please feel free to check the streaming. We will post it after on YouTube. So if you want to watch it again, please feel free to do that. You can also find it on the banners of each tutors here. So if you go on their profiles, you can check the streaming as well. Okay, thank you so much for today. This will conclude our USA symposium. And I hope to see you all again soon to our next symposium, or maybe with the same tutors or someone else. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Have a nice day, a good night, and see you soon. Goodbye.